everyone, and welcome back to JesterBell, and I have just seen the latest DC flop. I'm sorry, that sounds a little bit cruel to open this review for, but you know what I'm talking about. DC movies kind of aren't known for making the best movies. But I had one more month of Regal Unlimited, and it's kind of my job now, so I went to see Blue Beetle, and I'm about to give you my honest review of it. But first of all, you might notice that my setup has changed a little bit behind me. We have a poster of Joker here, which I already have. We have a poster of Barbie there, and the reason I did this is because I think it represents where we are as a society right now. Seriously though, people kept making fun of me for having just Marvel posters in the background, and so I wanted to change it up a little bit, and this will be an ever-changing setup of different movie posters. Also, since this is a DC review that's going to be a bit negative, I want to stave off the DC fanboys that are going to come along who make fun of me for having Marvel posters in the background and say, haha, you're just a Marvel fanboy, you're just doing this to hate on DC. Well, tell it to the Joker back there. Anyway, let's get started with this review of the movie. Now, I want to get something out of the way first that I think a lot of people forget. Blue Beetle started out as a made-for-streaming movie. Back when WB was really trying to make HBO Max, that was back when it was HBO Max, make that be a thing, they had planned to do a lot of DC direct-to-TV movies. That's where the Batgirl movie came in, that's where Blue Beetle came in, they were going to make a Black Canary movie, and all of those movies were either infamously shelved or canned. But with Blue Beetle, apparently they thought that it was good enough to play in the theater, and that's how it got saved. But watching it, I gotta say, you can absolutely tell it's a streaming movie. From the special effects, a lot of the special effects, to just the way the opening credits are. It was like a TV pilot with like the CGI Blue Beetle floating through the air, and then it changes up to like this old-timey newsreel, and it wasn't really good. Not only does that tell you that this was a streaming movie, but the CW level melodrama that comes in this movie really tells you that this was made for streaming. And that is my main problem with the film, and there are some good things in it, and we'll get to those, but the main problem of the film for me was tone, because for much of the movie it is basically a clown show with all of these jokes. Then it'll get really dark and serious, then it'll go back to clown jokes, it'll go to drama, and it'll go to like really cheesy, sappy melodrama. But I want to talk about the big positive for this movie, and it was the only reason why I had any interest in seeing this movie whatsoever. It's because of the lead star, Cholo Maridueño. I hope I pronounced his name right. He is the lead actor from the show Cobra Kai. If you've seen that, he was the strongest actor from that show, and he just gives it his all in this performance. He's like the perfect guy you want to cast as a superhero because he's got the charisma, he's got the emotional range, he's got the likability. He has such potential to be a movie star. So I hope that this movie doesn't hurt him, because he should get so much more work. I don't know one person who does not like this actor, and he just does such a great job in the movie. He does the best he can with what he's given, but what he's given is not great. He is portrayed as sort of the straight man character in the midst of a bunch of clowns, because this movie really wants to hit home the theme of family and really tie him to his family, so that they are very much linked with him in his story in this movie. They are with him through the whole thing. But the problem, like I've been saying, is his family is a bunch of clowns, and that is where some of the tonal clashes come in. For example, there's a scene in the movie that is supposed to be really dark and dramatic when the Blue Beetle suit, the Scarab, first attaches itself to Jaime Reyes, that's Cholo's character, and it attaches itself to him, and like it goes onto his skin, it burns off his clothes, and he's in a lot of pain. He's on the roof, and the way the music plays, it's really dramatic and dark and horrifying. But then you've got the contrast of his family making silly jokes and acting like clowns during it, like, oh, he's possessed, and that is what I'm talking about when it comes to tone of the movie. That for much of the beginning, it's basically the jokes, quirky humor, and melodrama, like these really sappy CW level family moments and speeches about family and purpose and all of that kind of stuff. And then we'll get a scene that's supposed to be really dark and dramatic later on in the movie, like after the movie just has not been taking itself seriously whatsoever. We get a scene where Jaime Reyes' family is attacked, and all of a sudden, after just being this CW pilot level movie, it makes it really dark, and it really makes the actors get really emotional and dark and in pain, and it's just such a weird contrast of a movie, and that was my main problem. I mean, one of the things that I liked about the movie was the action sequences. And I was so surprised because Blue Beetle actually does not use the suit very much. You don't really get to see him in action much, and that's really a shame because when the action started with him, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I like his power set. I like how these action sequences are playing out. He basically fights an Ironmonger ripoff of the movie, but it was very much like Iron Man, the first movie, and that was great. And I was wondering, why am I enjoying these action scenes so much? And I found out it's because they used mostly practical effects for these action sequences, so they felt more real and more exciting, and that was great. But once again, the tonal problems of the movie just keep coming in. We get a scene near the end where the Blue Beetle suit, for some reason, is not helping Jaime, and he's running away, and the guy's coming, and it's really intense, and there's going to be a big action sequence, and then his grandma shows up because his family's come to rescue him. His grandma shows up with a big machine gun, and it starts just mowing these people down. It's supposed to be funny, but I'm like, the problem is you had me there with this action sequence, and it was really dark, but now you want to do slapstick comedy, and that's what's not working. But this sort of thing just plays out throughout the entire movie. We get a really, really emotional death scene once again, and it gets really dark, and then 5 minutes later, the entire family gets in this giant, like, 1960s Blue Beetle ship that's, like, based on something that you would see in an old campy comic, and then some of the powers that ship has, it releases farts. So we go from the father having a heart attack and the family crying and being so emotional to fart jokes. And that's just that is so frustrating because there are good things in the movie and there are good elements to it, and it's like this movie, what it needed to be is it needed to be a standard dramatic action movie like Iron Man, and if it had just been that, then it could have been really good. But it also wants to be a melodrama, it also wants to be a comedy, and it wants to keep that darn family so close to Jaime. Like, if he was, like, for some reason he's played the straight man and all of his family are just kind of jokes, and I'm like, your family should be more grounded than that, and then it could really work. It should be about him saving his family, not his family having to save him, and that way we don't have all of this comedy and disruption coming into the film, because I thought Jaime's character was, because it was such a good actor, was really good. But going back to the melodrama, there's even more ridiculous moments, and I just want to give more examples of how the family element really disrupts this movie and took me out of it. So there's a dramatic scene in the movie where the Ironmonger-like character is about to kill Jaime. His suit has failed him. The Ironmonger character has a big sword that he's about to cut Jaime's neck off, and then his uncle shows up and throws a rock at Ironmonger and doesn't do anything to damage him because he's so powerful. But then, for some reason, he's got the guy who's actually a threat to him, like, pinned down. He's about to chop his head off. But for some reason, he turns to the guy who's not a threat to him, who just threw a rock at him, and has to attack him, which makes Jaime able to escape and is able to eventually defeat him. And it's like, all of this because you were worried about a guy who threw a rock at you? It was so ridiculous. But they want to integrate the family into it, and that's why it just messed up. But this family element brings it down other ways. So Jaime basically is about to kill the big bad guy, and then the Scarab shows him that this guy was just brainwashed, and it shows him memories of his mother, and that was really cheesy. But it gets worse because the Ironmonger character ends up blowing up the island to kill the main bad guy, and he sees, as he's about to die, he sees this vision of his mother coming to him in the afterlife, and it's like, we just found out this guy's backstory 2 minutes ago, and already you're expecting us to care about this vision and his connection to his mother. So that is what I'm talking about how this movie really, really wants to have a strong element of family and have that theme, but the way it does it is just so cheesy that it just made me cringe throughout a lot of it. It ended up bringing the movie down. For other elements of it, it's funny because aside from Cholo Maridueño, I thought that the other actors weren't good in the comedy scenes, but they seemed to be a lot better in dramatic scenes, and I just would chalk it up to directing, because when those dramatic scenes would play, it would be like, well, what tone do you want this movie to have? You have them silly when it's supposed to be really dramatic, and then you have them go really, really, really dramatic after you've had the whole movie kind of be a comedy. And once again, that's a directing problem. I think that they were told to, like, go really dark and really deep in those moments, you know, not knowing, for example, in the Scarab takeover scene, how it was going to sound with the music and the editing around it. And so I think that it was outside forces. It just kind of feels like there was multiple directors working on this movie, wanting to pull it in different ways. And I want to just talk about some little things in the movie that also also bothered me. Number one, Susan Sarandon, who is the main villain of the movie, is just so cringe. Like, she was completely phoning in her performance, and that goes back to the directing I was talking about. I'm not sure if she was phoning in the performance or if she was told that this is going to be a really campy movie to not take seriously, so she should be kind of a campy character, but she comes off as a cartoonish Cruella de Vil. She's even referenced as that, and it did not work whatsoever. Other things in the movie that bothered me, I don't know why we got 2 superhero movies in a row this year where there's a scene where a character meets somebody in the afterlife and that they tell them your time has not come yet to die, so you have to go back and you have to live your purpose. 2 scenes like that happened. But now I've seen 3 movies this summer alone, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Barbie, and Blue Beetle, where there was a scene of where it's mimicking God touching Adam scene, you know, that touching. That happened in this movie, Barbie, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and it was just really odd to see that motif used in 3 major movies. Also, there's a weird scene in the beginning where they meet, like, the love interest character. She is, like, the daughter of Ted Kord and of Kord Industries, and she's, like, the head of Kord Industries, and when she enters, she's, like, sitting in with her stilettos with her coat to the side, like she's a supermodel, and she's just in that position when she's having a regular conversation. And I don't know, it was just really weird. So, should you watch Blue Beetle? Well, there are some good elements in it, like the action sequences, but honestly, just like this was originally a streaming movie, I would recommend just waiting to watch it on streaming. It is par for the course of DC movies where it is pretty bad, but honestly, if I was to rank it amongst The Flash and Shazam Fury of the Gods coming out this year, I'd probably rank it the highest. I hope that Cholo Maridueño gets more work after this. He does not deserve to be another one of the many, many, many talented actors screwed over by DC. Anyway, it is a 5 out of 10 movie, and I will have more videos coming out about DC in the future. Would this be a movie that I would want to start the new DC universe? No, I wouldn't mind if Blue Beetle showed up again, but it's not really the movie that you want to start a new universe. But that's all I got for you today. Be sure to like and subscribe, support me on Patreon. I have a new short film that's only a minute long coming out tomorrow, and I will see you guys then and next time.